Hi everyone, this is Professor Bowen-Moore. I am going to show you a demo of the first tutorial practice, which is working with basic layout, using some of the basic InDesign tools and working a little bit with type. Because our first major project is going to address typography primarily in layout and presenting information in an appropriate manner. So for this tutorial, I am providing you with an image and some demo text. So download those things first before starting the practice. The first part of the criteria is we want to start our document. So when we're in InDesign, you can start a new file from here, or you can go up to the top main menu and select File, New, and Document. And we're just going to do a letter size document for print on this. I would go ahead and label, you may not be able to see all of this label, but label it as instructed. Remember, all assignments need to have your last name, then underscore in the project title. So I'm just going to use my married name here, Moore underscore tutorial practice. You can also do mp1 in lowercase. So the minor projects are in lowercase. The major projects are in all cap or all uppercase. So we want to set a bleed margin for this. This is if we were printing this, we would have a color bleeding off the page. So we would want that color to extend past the page edge for when they trim the page in the printing process. So for this, we're doing 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8 of an inch in picas is 0 picas, 9 points. So if you are reading about your typography in basic typography lecture, you will see that points and picas are just smaller units of an inch used in typography based on the printing plates. So you can convert things to picas, which is generally used for print. You can also change from picas to inches up here next to the width and height of your page under units. If you want to work in inches, that's fine, but you can also convert things pretty easily. If you wanted this to be 1/8 of an inch, 0.125, and then put the inches symbol or the quotes, double quotes, that would also automatically convert it for you to picas. So here's our page. The red line outside the page is our bleed margin. So when we lay our background color, which is next, we want that to go all the way outside the page. Inside the page is a magenta line, and that represents our 1/2 inch default text margin. So we want all of our text to stay within those boundaries on the page. And this is an invisible margin. We just see these would not print. You would not see those printed. So the next thing we want to do first is we want to set a background color. So I'm just going to select my shape tool here, my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to start outside the page around the bleed margins. I'm just going to extend it over the whole thing. And up here in my control panel, I'm going to select my fill box, black, and then I'm going to adjust the tint to, which would basically be like adding white to black. So I'm going to make it about, I would say, 30 to 40%. I might even make it a little lighter. Let's go about 35, 30. We'll do 30%. So we're going to have a gray background in our layer window. And if you don't see the same windows as what I have here, make sure that your work up here under essentials, make sure you have essentials chosen. That's going to give you all of the same windows on the right as I do. And if there is another toolbar, you know, window open that on my video that you don't see, you can always go up to window in the top menu and open your layers window. Anything dealing with type is going to be under type and tables. So like your character formatting tools, your paragraph formatting tools, all of those things. So we're going to have this, the layer 1, which is our background color. I'm going to lock this layer so we don't have to worry about it accidentally selecting it, and we can work on top of that. So now I'm going to select the plus sign in the bottom of my layer window. That is going to give me another layer now that I can put my type and image and everything on top of that. And you can also access a new layer by clicking the little hamburger stack in the top right of this tool window, and then you can select new layer from there as well. So I'm going to have that selected. Our bounding boxes are going to be red for this layer. And now we want to place an image. So this is the image that you have downloaded from Blackboard. And so you can just do that and export it or save it as to your desktop. Save as, file save as. And it should stay a TIFF for you, which is preserving a transparent background. So we are going to go over here to our frame tool. Our shortcut for that is F. And this is going to create a frame. Now, sometimes the frame tool or the frame that we create is different dimensions than the image itself. This image is probably going to be much larger than the frame that we're putting it in. So we can make it fit. So we have that frame selected. You can either go to File, Place, and place the image, or your shortcut is Command D. And so we're going to select that from our desktop. And as you can see, yes, it is much bigger. If I zoom out and I double click inside using my selection tool, if I double click, you can see the image is much bigger than the frame. You can use your 2 fingers on your trackpad and you can reduce the size to fit in the frame. So again, let me refresh and reiterate. I'm selecting the frame. I can double click to access the image inside the frame. So I am reducing using my 2 fingers on the trackpad. That keeps it proportional between the length and width with its constrained proportions. If you are scaling it down using the anchor points, we can't just click and drag. It will distort the image greatly. It will not keep the constrained proportion. So as you can see, if I just click and on any of these various anchor points, it's just giving it a free form adjustment, and that is not keeping the image proportional. So what we have to do is, if we are clicking the anchor points to scale this image down to fit inside the frame, then we are going to hold down the Command Shift keys as we do that. And that is going to keep the proportions constrained between the length and the width of this image. Oops. And notice my hand tool pops up. I can move the image anywhere inside that frame. So now it's all fitting inside. And I can click on the frame and adjust it as well. Once I have the image inside the frame, I can click on the frame, which is now including everything inside of it. And I can also scale this image using my Command Shift keys. Now, if you're working on a PC, this would be a Control Shift. So that's a good shortcut to remember, Command Shift. When you're scaling anything, this also works for text boxes, adjusting the size of text. So this scales an image or an object for that matter. proportionally. And you always want to keep images proportional. You never want them to be skewed or distorted in terms of its length and width. So I'm going to kind of give some room above this because we're going to do a type on a path here in just a moment. So our next task, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the layer window again and lock this layer. Our next task is to work with type. So I'm going to start a new layer for that. I'm not a stickler for how you organize your layers, but I just want to show you in this tutorial how they operate and how you can create your own organizational system with the elements on a page if you're working with type as well as visuals and like background color and things like that. So sometimes it's easy to put separate things in separate layers. That way you don't have layered objects and have to, access something underneath. This allows you to do so more easily. So now we want to place some copy. So I gave you a demo file with some demo text. So basically I want you to copy and paste that demo text and then we're going to format it. So I'm going over to the PDF that I downloaded of the demo text and I am copying and pasting that. And now we can create a text box down here at the bottom. And I'm going to paste. I'm going to Command V to paste. So some of those shortcut keys are all the same across different platforms. Command C is copy, Command V or Control V is paste. Again, Control is in place of Command with the PC. This text is not fitting in this box. As you can see, I've got a little plus sign down here on this text box. That means there's more type in this box than what is showing up. And you can see down here, this bottom line is being cut off. If I go to my regular selection tool and I select this text box and I drag it, you can see there's more text not showing, but we're going to format this to be smaller and to be able to fit. So what I would like for you to do, we've got some subheaders here and we've got some information. We've got a list, some things that we want to kind of separate and create some more, spacing to make it more readable or more easily readable. So I am going to change this type. I'm going to select all. And I am going to change this to Avenir. You can use whatever readable typeface you would like for this. It doesn't have to be what I'm using here in the tutorial. But I'm going to take it down to about 10 points. Body copy, again, we want body copy to be around 9 to 11 points. And then now I can go back in my subheaders. I can make those a little bigger if I would like. So maybe 12 or 13 points. I'm also going to make it more bold. And then I'm going to select the first line underneath that subheader, and I'm going to adjust the leading just a little bit to give it a little bit of, and we may have to still make this smaller. Let's try doing that. And I'm actually going to make this, go over here and unlock my picture. I'm going to maybe bring my picture up some too, so that can give me a little extra room. There we go. So select that first line under the headers. I'm going to adjust the leading or the line spacing to 15 points, just that first line underneath the headers to give it a little space from that header. And then this is a new paragraph. I'm going to select that first line also, and I'm going to separate it just a little bit where I have new paragraph starting. And then here is another subheader. I'm going to separate that section a little more, maybe 18 points. And then this first line was 15 points from the subheader. So I am going to do the same with it. And I'm treating the subheader the same as I did the other one. 12 points. I'm going to separate my list just a little bit. And then class participation, that is a new section as well. So this one was separated 18 points from the previous one, so I'm going to keep that consistent in my line spacing. I'm going to make it bold. And then again, the first line underneath, I'm going to add just a little bit of space from that subheader. Now we're running out past the text margin just a little bit, so I'm just going to select this text box again, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys on my keypad, and then just bump it up inside. Now, so now that bottom line is right on that text margin line, but it's within those boundaries. And if I want to access the type inside the box, I can double click, and now I'm working with the type again. Okay, so now, and if you feel like you still don't have much room, you can always, as long as you have a little room to create your type on a path above the image, which we're going to do next, you should be good in fitting your copy at the bottom. So the type on a path tool, oh, and I've got to create your custom tabs. Hold on. So because we have a list, we want to indent that list. So I'm going to select just the listed items, and I'm going to go up to type tabs. And this is going to be where we can customize how far we want our tab to go when we click the tab key. So anytime you have a list that needs to align vertically, this is a good way to do that. And this little bar, even if it gets, it usually snaps to the width of the text box in which you are working with. If it, we move our composition around and our page around sometimes, and that misaligns, you can always click the little magnet button on the far right, and it will snap back to the width of the text box you're working with. So you can kind of see those vertical alignments. Here we have a left justified tab, center, right, and then a decimal, which we would use like if we were lining up pricing or something like that. We're just going to use the left justified tab, so the tab is working on the left side of the type. And I'm going to make sure that is selected. And then this little gray bar on top of the ruler, I'm just going to click alongside that bar. You can slide it, as you can see. And you can see that vertical line. That is where the tab key will go. Or that is where the items will go when I click the tab key. So I'm setting that indentation myself. The default tab tends to go too far. So now when I click back into the type and I put my cursor before the A here, when I click the tab key, it's going to that tab that I designated. So I'm going to indent those listed items there. Okay, now if you close out this tab bar, your tabs are still in place, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so now we want to create a type on a path. So the first thing you have to do with the type on a path tool is we want to make sure that we create the path first. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial is I'm going to have the type arch above the globe here. So for that, I'm going to create and select the ellipse tool. Now remember these little arrows on your tools here are, they let you know that there are more tools. So if you click and hold, there are more options for that shape tool here. So we have rectangle, ellipse, and a polygon shape that we can work with. So I'm selecting the ellipse. Now I can click and drag from the left, as you can see. and you can adjust it freeform. I'm selecting V once I drag it out, so that's putting me back into my regular selection tool. That's my shortcut. And now I can adjust this to the arch however I would like. If you want it to be a perfect circle, you can hold down the Option Shift key. So that will drag from the middle and keep it proportional. So if you want it to be and scale proportionally to the globe, you can place that arch above in that way and keep it a perfect circle. So I'm going to kind of center this over. And from there, I'm going to go to my type tool, click and hold so I can select the type on a path tool. So you can see my cursor has the little line going through it. That's a path. You can see when I drag that cursor over that line of the ellipse, it has a little plus sign pop up. That it means that it is ready to type on this path. So I'm going to click and I'm just going to write hotty toddy. Now I know it's not centered right now. I'm just concerned with I'm just going to use the Avenir again. I'm going to do it in black. I might raise the type some, make it kind of bigger, and that might alleviate the need to center it, but you can, if I go back to the selection tool and I select this path again, you can see there's two bars. The one on the right, see the cursor has the arrow going to the right, that will slide. That is everything. That's the beginning of my path. This other bar is the end of my path. And so this represents the text going around this path. So if I slid this bar to the right, it would push the type all the way around this ellipse, wherever I would want it. So I can just slide it to adjust where the beginning and end of this path is. So I'm just going to eyeball it and kind of center it as best I can. And I'm still within the constraints of the text margin lines here. And I don't have, you can, if you need to see your path better, you can adjust the stroke of that path and give it some color first so you can see where that path is, but always make sure you go back and select none and get rid of that stroke or line. Okay, remember stroke means outline. So we can get rid of that so it's not visible in the printing process. And then that's a type on a path. Now we've got it arched around this. You can afford to double click inside and access the type again. I mean, you can afford to make it a little bigger. We're still inside the text margin lines. And again, I can select this and recenter this. Okay, I did notice there's a sliver on the left side of my image, so I can also select, I have to unlock it, but select this image. I can pull in the frame to cut that off. So now we can just show what we want within that image frame. So there you have it. So now we are ready to package this and turn it in. So the packaging process is really important. This is how any work we do in InDesign, you will have to package and compress to a zip file. So we are going to first save this. So more tutorial practice. I'm going to add sample here since this is just a demo. So I'm going to put this to my desktop. And then I'm going to go to File, Package. I'm going to click Package. And it's going to have the same title. It's just going to have folder at the end of it. because it's putting everything that I used in this document into a folder automatically. Okay, so I'm including my IDML, and IDML is going to be a version of this InDesign file that's compatible with older versions of Adobe InDesign. So if I'm opening this on an older computer, I would probably have to open your IDML. We're also including a PDF, a print PDF of the work. If we were printing this, you would print the PDF version. Okay, so, and then the working InDesign file is an INDD extension. You will see that also in your packaged folder. In addition to that, you will see a links folder, which will have the image that you placed, and you will also see a documents fonts folder. Sometimes, since we pulled this type from InDesign and its database, you may not have an actual folder for it, but if we had used a typeface that we had downloaded from the internet, it would have to be packaged and it would package in a font folder in your package folder automatically. This means you're just making sure you're complying with all copyright laws in reference to type and the fonts you're using, because some of them are for commercial purposes. You have to purchase them. And once you have your folder on your desktop, then you are going to right click on that folder and select compress. And then it will put it in a zip file. So that's going to make those multiple components operate like one item, which will be easier for uploading. If you double click inside your folder first, make sure all of your items are in there. So let me show you what that looks like. So I've got my tutorial practice folder here that was packaged. Inside that, I've got my IDML. I've got my INDD, which is my current working InDesign file, my PDF for if I were printing this. Here's my document fonts. It's got the Avenir here, and it's got the image that I used. Okay. And so now that I know everything's in there, I am going to right click on that, compress it to a zip. And as you can see, it looks like a folder with the zipper. Okay. So that is going to enable me to upload it to Box. So you will drag and drop this into the assignment folder in Box, or click the upload file button and upload it as a single file, the zip. Okay. So that is essentially the tutorial practice. And if you have questions or concerns about anything, don't hesitate to ask. Okay. Thank you for listening.